All right. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Demo 8. I'm so sorry about how long it took me to make this. I was busy with hack challenge stuff and it was a lot, but it's here now, and again, super sorry for the wait. But today we're doing images, so if you guys are interested in doing that for your hack challenge or, in the future, definitely, check in. This will be super interesting. So first, how would we even go about storing, right? We've been storing like data and stuff so far. We've been storing strings, integers, all that sort of thing. How do we store like pictures? There's a couple things we can do. The strategy where we're going to be going with today is we're going to be, as you can see, converting our images to base 64. First, storing that in our database as like a text string, and then using that to post through an Amazon S3 bucket, which is a solution that Amazon offers for storage. So, for example, if I go here and I click, let's say I upload some picture, right? This is just something I created for the demo. It'll upload and it's converted it into some base 64 string. So then all I have to do is copy it. And if I go into Postman now, this is left over from when I was practicing. Delete that. This is eventually what we're going to be building. I will deploy it onto Heroku to show you guys how to do it. I was just post. We'll pass in an image data and then paste in what we got from the website, which is this long string, right? But we can see it is a data image of type PNG converted to base 64. And then it's that long string that's the conversion. All right, so to set this up, we're going to be needing to do a couple things, right? What I mentioned before is we're going to need the AWS system, right? You're going to need an AWS account. So most of y'all, you would go to create an AWS account and you would have to sign up. I've already done this, so I can just go here, click through all of that. I think that's 3 N's. Nope. Can't, dude, capture's hard. So, once you've created an AWS account, what you're going to have to do is make an S3 account. So you can look at the different services they have and then go here to storage S3. One thing I do want to point out, when you make an AWS account, it'll ask you for some sort of billing information. S3 storage is not necessarily free. Once you make an Amazon AWS account, you will get free storage for a year. And by free storage, that means every month, I think you get 2,000 post requests and like 20,000 get requests. And after that, it's different. So, it's free for a bit, but make sure to deactivate your bucket once you're done using it. Otherwise, you're going to get billed. I don't want to be responsible for that. So make sure to deactivate it. So click on S3. Wants to load. Cool. So you can see that I don't have any buckets, right? I deleted the stuff I was using. So let's create a bucket. Let's call it Rahi Demo 8. You will want to pay attention to this region that we're making it in. I'm in US East 2 because, I don't know, on the East Coast, I'm in Ithaca. That's just something to keep in mind because we're going to be using this when setting our credentials. You will be able to look back at this stuff. So don't worry if you don't pay too much. Normally, we wouldn't want public access, right? It's kind of ratchet to have just anybody able to access your bucket. But going into permissions right now is out of scope of this lecture. And, just to speed things along, I'm going to clickety-doo-dah-clickety-a, acknowledge that I'm being stupid, and, yep, that's good. Create the bucket. Lovely. Now we have this little Rahi Demo 8 bucket going. The other thing we're going to need is we're going to need some sort of security key. So I go here and then I click on my security credentials. It takes me to my management. Then I can go to access keys, and we want to create a new access. So, normally you're going to want to keep these secret. I'm going to immediately delete this. And so you can download the key file, and that'll have the information for you. You should download the key file to make it easier to access. I'm just going to go it here. So you'll get this access key ID and this secret access key. This is called secret for a reason. You should not show this to anyone. I am going to immediately delete these now that I've shown them to you and use the access key. You really shouldn't be showing either of these. So, once you download this and finish this setup, make sure to keep this safe and secret. Close that. I'm just going to delete, I think that's the one I just created. Delete that. Deactivate. Oop, delete. Lovely. All right, just a little bit more setup that we have to do. So now you should go into a terminal. No, that's not it. Let me get to my terminal. That's my code. That's browser. Postman. There we go. That's my terminal. Lovely. Took me a second. Cool. So you should go into your root directory. This means different things on different systems. If you are on Mac OS or Linux, from any terminal, you can just type cd and you'll get there. Windows users, this can be a little bit complicated. If you are using PowerShell, this is a PowerShell shell, then I can be in any directory. CD doesn't do anything, right? If you want to get to your root directory in Windows, you have to type cd tilde. See that takes me to this Rahi directory. That's my root directory. Problem. If you notice, go back there. If I type cd or cd tilde here, it will not do that. For those of you that know what WSL is and use it, that's something to keep in mind. If you're a Windows user and you don't use WSL or know what it is, ignore the thing I'm saying right now. But if you do use WSL, know that you will not get to your root by typing cd or cd tilde. Your root is just going to be your C users, whatever user you are, unless you changed that. All right. So once you're in your root directory, you should make a .aws folder. So you should probably run a command like that. I can't do it because I've already got it. Okay. Once you've made the folder, you should cd into it. And you can see that I have 3 files here, but you only need 2. You need config and you need credentials. My credentials have my actual keys in them, so I will not be showing you those. Instead, I'll be showing you credentials EX, which has placeholder. So once you cd into .aws, you have a couple different things you could do. You could use your text editor of choice to go to this directory and create these 2 files. If you're feeling fancy, you could use Vim, or if you're feeling basic, you could, So most of these things should come installed on your system, but for example, if I type Vim Config, I don't feel like. So we can see that in this file, we have this default, which you need to have, and then you have region equals USC2. That's why I was saying to pay attention to what region you're on. You're going to need it here, you're going to need it in a couple other places. So in your config file, all that you really need is default and region equals that. Take a second down. If to save something, oh, by the way, to use Vim, if you haven't used Vim, you type I to insert stuff, and then you can start typing. You hit escape to get out of insert mode, and then you can move around using either the arrow keys or J moves down, K moves up. You can look up Vim tutorials. And then to save the file, you hit escape, and then you type :WQ. That saves it. Now we can see if I cat config, it's there. Right? The other file you're going to need, your credentials file. So this time, instead of using Vim, I'll use nano because it's easier. Nano credentials EX. This will also have default at the top. You're going to need this AWS access key ID, and then instead of that placeholder value, you should put the access key that you got from AWS. Similarly with the secret access key, put your secret key there and then save the file. To save a file in nano, you can type Control-O and then Control-X to close it. Cool, so that's really all the setup that we need. We can get onto the code now. So if I get it right this time, I will. Nice. I forgot half of my keyboard shortcuts. So what are we going to be doing now? You should have access to the starter code. I believe that it's on the demo page for last week at this point, but week 8. There's a couple things we're going to be needing to do before we can really get much. Let's go into db.py, right? We have a lot of imports we need. I'm just gonna kind of heal those. Boop. So, this is a lot of imports that I just stuck in here, right? So we can go through these just for a bit. Base64 is what it sounds like. It's what we're going to be using to communicate with the base64 converter and stuff like that. Photo3 is our interactor with Amazon, with the Amazon S3 buckets, with Amazon AWS. That's how we're going to do that. Datetime, standard Python library. This will help us convert things into a byte stream so that we can read and things from that sort of stream if we need that, which we will, because we will be converting our base64 string into a byte string to pass it to AWS. Mime types. Mime types are interesting. So the internet uses these things called mime types to communicate what different things are. So for example, I believe that images/PNG is a mime type, right? Oops. That's a mime type. And so when we do guess type on something, it will guess something like this. We can then pass that into guess extension, which will guess the file extension. So that'll output something like a .png. So mime types are just so we can figure out what type of files we're working with, right? Because we want to support, not just PNG, but also like JPEG, JPG, what other image files are there? GIF, I don't know, OS is for path stuff. Pillow is an image handling library. We're really just going to be using to open images. That's what we're going to be using bytes.io for too. Random is to salt the image. I'll get into what salting is later. RE is a regular expression library that will help us kind of remove some unnecessary information. I'll show you when we get to it, and string is the same. All right. So now that we've gotten the imports out of the way, let's get to the actual code. So first thing we're going to want, like I said, we want to handle a decent number of extensions, right? So we want to handle, let's just make a note. We want PNG, we want GIF, JPG, and JPEG. Those are different things, right? Cool. We also want to know what our standard directory is. So that'll be our CWD maybe? There we go, it's get CWD. And so that'll just have the operating system tell us what our current path is. That stands for get current working directory. Our S3 bucket, this is going to be what you named the bucket that you created. So I named mine Rahi Demo 8. So that's what I'm going to be calling this. And then finally, our S3, that should be capitalized, base URL, going to be a format string. If you guys haven't used format strings, they're super nice. S3 bucket dot S3 dot Amazon.ws. Oh no, that should have a .com. But after S3, it should be whatever your region is. So my region, like we mentioned before, was US East. And so that should be what I'm connecting to. That's where my bucket is stored. Again, this is the region of your bucket. Don't just type US East 2, look at where you made your bucket. You can see it on your bucket website. So, how are we going to be storing this, right? Well, we could probably want a table, right? So we could make a class, and we're going to be doing normal SQL alchemy stuff, right? Inheriting from model and everything. One thing to keep in mind is, right now we're storing images, but buckets can store lots of things. So instead of just calling our class, class image, we could call it asset, right? And that's just a more general term that we could be using. That's a db.model. table name, asset, extra string. Why is this giving me a invalid syntax? What did I do wrong? I don't think I did anything wrong here. Invalid syntax. Jedi. I have no clue what that means. Oh, it went away. Lovely. I guess that was just my syntax highlighter being janky. All right. So, we're going to need a lot of things. We're going to need the ID, which is just a db.column, db.integer, primary key true. We're going to want a base URL, which is a .column, .string, nullable, was false. Salt. Okay, so the next one is salt. Salt equals db.column .string nullable equals. For our purposes, a salt is just going to be a unique identifier for our image. The reason it's called a salt is my intuitive reasoning. It's kind of like salting the file to make it more obscure as to what it is. You're like shaking some stuff up inside. So we're going to be needing the salt, which we'll also be using as the image name, by the way. We're going to need to know the extension of the file, right? Maybe it's a PNG, maybe it's something else. So we'll need to know what that is. String nullable equals false. We're going to need, we can store like all sorts of random metadata about it. We can store like the height in pixels if we want. I believe, or the width. There's another name. Sure, let's store created at. That's some metadata. We can do db.date time if it wants to agree with me. Capital nullable equals false. Beautiful. Okay, so now we just def our init method. As always, takes in self and quargs. And then most of this stuff is not bad. So self.create based on quargs.get image data. So we're going to define this create function in a bit. And image data is what you remember I passed into Postman earlier, that big, long base64 string. We're going to be getting all of this information just from that. Cool. So, you know what? Let's make a serialized function. Self loop the URL, which is f self.base URL slash self.salt.self.extension. Right. And so what this is just saying is take our base URL, which is going to be the URL pointing to our bucket, and then grab the image with its extension. Right? So we could have stored salt and extension together. We've chosen to split them up. That's fine. Also, keep in mind, extensions normally include this dot. We're just leaving it there so that it's easy to differentiate this all. And then created at is a string for self.create. So now let's make the create function. So create takes in image data. Sorry. And trying to get through this quickly, let's just wrap everything in it. So, try and pass for now exception as print error. That can be a colon. Cool. What should go on our try block? Well, like I mentioned before, we need to know what the extension is, right? So the extension, you remember what I talked about Mime Types? We're going to guess the extension And we're going to get the extension from the Mime type. So first we have to know what the Mime type is. So guess the type of the image data. So this will give us a list. We just want the first element. And then we want this. So the reason for this is guess extension will return a string, right? So it'll return like .png or something. This just eliminates the first character. So it'll get rid of the dot just because we're putting in the dot ourselves here. So we don't need that. Beautiful. All right. So then the question is, we made this list of extensions. If it doesn't matter, then why are we doing it? Well, it does. So, let's just say if x to not extensions, then raise an exception into the format string extension ext not ported. Cool. Now we need to salt it. And so like I mentioned before, salting is just a way of creating a unique identifier. And so we want it to be super random, right? Because that's really secure. In general, if you salt something, you're trying to make it more secure. For our purposes, we don't really need something that's secure, but it's cool to know how to do. So salt equals cat.join random.systemRandom choose.choice and then string.ASCII up. Autocomplete went away. String.ASCII uppercase plus string.digits. That can be, I believe, 4i in. Range is a function. I don't think we need a variable there, but I'll have it. Cool. And so this is just, a way of generating a random string that's kind of convenient. It chooses between all the uppercase letters and all the digits, grabs something random for a while. All right. You can read more about what random system random does in this Python syntax. So now we get into the regular expression, because if we look back at Postman, we have this like data, image stuff all, at the beginning. We don't need that. We want this. This is the actual encoding. This is just some metadata that we're passing through, which isn't immediately necessary. So let's get rid of it. The way we get rid of it is through regular expressions, right? So our image string is going to be regular expression, and I'm just going to grab that. Oop. Like this. If you're curious, you can read more about regular expressions. I can briefly explain this. The caret says look at the beginning of the string for the following chunk. So we're looking for data, image / dot says replace me with any character, and plus says repeat the previous thing up until the next character. So this says start with data : image / and then I don't care what I see until I see a semicolon. Then once I see a semicolon, I better see base 64 : and then replace all of that just with an empty string. And put the value into image data. Sorry, and take the value from image data. So then we're going to want to encode it. So our image data is going to be base 64, base 64 decode, because it's already encoded, image string. Finally, we're going to want to open the image. So the actual image is going to be image, which we imported from Pillow, remember, image.open. And we can't just give it image data directly, because this doesn't give us the format we want. What we actually want is to convert it to some sort of byte stream, kind of like files. We can convert that to a bytes IO or image data. That should be the image. And then finally, we'll need to create the base object. So self.base URL equals just S3 URL, yep. Self.salt equals salt. Self.extension equals EXE. What else did we have there? We had self.height equals image. Yeah, image.height. Self.width equals image width. And the last one is created at. Self.created at created at equals standard Python stuff, datetime.datetime.now. Gotta love all the nested. Cool. And then finally, we want to upload the image to AWS, right? We haven't actually touched AWS in this function, so let's get the file name of the image. So we're going to want that to be salt.extension, right? Because we pulled the extension out, we pulled the period out of the extension. If we hadn't done that, we would just do salt extension. Might be fun for you to try, not removing that. Then you wouldn't even need the regular expression. Self.upload, which is a function we haven't written yet, so we'll get to that. Image file name. So that's going to pass in the image data itself and then what we want to name. Cool, so that looks like our create function done. So I guess now let's take the strategy of calling a function we haven't created yet and figuring it out later. The time has come, the walrus said. So def upload self image file name. Like again, try exception e print upload failed because of that. Whatever the error was. Cool. So what we're going to be doing right now is a little bit janky. We have our image data and we have the image information. We need an actual PNG file or whatever file we want to send to AWS. But right now all we have is kind of our strange Python encoded, decoded interpretation of that, right? It's not the actual file. So we need to somehow create the actual file, right? Where are we going to store it, right? Let's find some temporary location. We're going to put it in our base directory / the file name. So in our current directory, it's going to create that file. Then we want to save it there. So what these two lines of code are doing is they're saying, hey, take this folder and the file name and save our image to that. Now that we have our actual file, we can upload the image. S3 client equals. And remember, we're using Boto3 to interact with S3. So Boto3.client S. I don't think I need to type in. The next thing is some janky documentation stuff, and it's kind of hard to explain quickly. So if you're curious about what the next couple lines do, I really recommend reading the S3 and the AWS and the Boto documentation. I can try and explain them. When did my Python tabs turn it? Well, so this is saying we want to look at the S3 bucket and we're going to be storing it as image file name. This is saying what the permissions are. So everybody has permission to read the image. And then this is just deleting the image from our immediate directory. So I'll show you what it'll do if I don't have that. Yeah, that is our .db.py done. Now we can work on app.py. Ignore all of this and just go to upload. So, oh wait, no, one thing I forgot to do. Import from DB import asset. All right. Perfect. So scroll down to upload, and you should have all of this starter code nicely filled out for you. Same way that I have it. So same as always, we're going to get body equals json.loads request.data. Does that need to be a string? I don't think that needed to be. Right part. All right. You know, we're posting in the image data, so the image data is just going to be body.get image data. Probably check to make sure that they gave us something. So if image data is none, return fail. Autocomplete for me? Probably not. Failure response. No image. Cool. Then we want to actually create the image, right? So the image is asset, because that's what we called the class, with image data equal to image data. Then, like always, we db.session.add the asset .session.commit return success response of asset.serialize 201. And that's the code done. At least I think, you know. Oh, no, I haven't. What? What is happening? Okay. So now we should be able to run our code. So Python. I'm in the right direction. Let's see if it throws a fit. Oh, it worked. Really shocking. So Postman. That's the wrong hotkey. I didn't know that did that in Postman. Fun fact that I just learned: if you hit Control /, it closes your groups. That's funky. So I have this image data pasted in already. I'm already a localhost upload. For now, you know, just as a quick test, let's make sure that just getting localhost 5000 doesn't break everything. Perfect. It hello worlded us. Love to see it. Upload. Post. There's crossed. And it worked. Success true data, and it even gave us a nice URL for us to look at. So this URL is how the front end is going to actually get the images. Your database, you can imagine how, you know, the fact that we're storing this URL in our database allows you to easily send the URL to the front end. That's not my camera, that's my camera. Allows you to easily send the URL to the front end, who can then just quickly, download it from this URL. So I copy that. Then I go to my browser, which I believe is this one. Hey, there we go. If I paste this in, I meant to just paste it. No, it's fine. Copy that. The XML file does not appear to have file information associated. Access denied. Excuse me? Click. Send. Access denied. Why though? 1 second. Did I not make my bucket public? Objects can be public. Permissions. Block public access is off. I'm the bucket owner. Everyone has public access. Yeah, what do you mean? Okay, well, it also says I don't have anything in the bucket. If I refresh the page, it says I have nothing in the bucket. That's strange. Okay, let me try deleting that bucket and making a new one. All right, I figured it out. Turns out that I forgot the most important line in our code. I forgot right after this, we need to upload the file. We never did it. S3 client dot upload, I believe it's upload file, and then the file at our image temp location, which is why we needed to actually store the file, to the S3 bucket. Apparently I've forgotten how to capitalize things. With the image file name. Cool. Okay. Now, forgot one more line of code. This one was less obvious than the other one, but we need to specify our resource used. If you'll notice, typed S3 resource here, it wasn't defined. So S3 resource equals photo3.resource. I believe I pass in the S bucket, 3 bucket, and the image file name. And this should finally work. Oh boy. Apparently, two things. One, I don't know Python. I'm sure some of you already caught this. Maybe. And two, I messed up a little bit of syntax. So for one, the one problem is this actually should have been just S3. But the other problem was Python whitespace syntax is janky. This wasn't in the class. So when I tried calling self.upload, it just didn't do anything. And it decided that that wasn't worth throwing an error for. So now I Python 3 app.py. I swear if it doesn't work. Oh, spelling mistake. We're good. That should be resource. Cool. Try that again. Click on it, and this time it should have, there we go. That's what we want. So let me just scroll up in case you can see that. This janky stuff is actually an image. So, excuse me. If I go browser, which I this, I refresh the page. My internet would like to cooperate. 213. Perfect. So this one is the one that we made at first that we forgot to allow permissions for because I typed resources instead of resource. This one is the one we just made. So if we actually go to the, no, that's not what I wanted. If we actually go to the URL, you'll see it just disappeared. The way that I'm recording right now, I can't show my whole screen, but it popped up a file save as window, and it's trying to get me to save the PNG. So that's how that works. And so you can just give the front end that link that Postman returned, and that will allow you to download the file. Okay. So now that we've done that, let's show you guys how to deploy it, right? Which, you know, we've gotten all the hard coding stuff out of the way. Deployment should not be too bad. So if I go to my terminal, which is there, we're going to be using Heroku to deploy. If you were in a server or something, you would have to set up your credentials on the root directory of the server. But since we are just using Heroku, we have to go through a different process. So what the process is for Heroku is first, like always, we have to, Heroku log in. Logged in. Then we have to Docker login. All right, login succeeded. Now that we can do that, we can do Heroku container login. No, that was way faster. Maybe Docker's just slow. Now we can do Heroku container push. web, and this is exactly like you learned in the deployment with one addition that we'll get to in a bit. So I'll call this Rahi 8. Heroku 8. Rahi demo 8. Heroku. All right, it'll take a hot second for it to build. Perfect. So the one thing that we should do now before we release, you can do it after you release, it'll restart your server if you do, is this command. So hopefully you guys can see it. If you can't, I will zoom in. I'll actually clear just so you guys can definitely see and that. So it's Heroku Config Set, and you're essentially saying, hey, set this AWS access key ID to, whatever your access key, and set my secret access key to whatever secret key is for your app. So in this case, mine is Rahi demo 8. While I quickly, get my keys, I will take you guys away from my terminal for a second. So you get to look at Postman for a bit. Credential. That. That's pasted in. Okay. And so once you've done that command, it'll say setting your access key and restarting the server, done v3, and then it'll print out your keys again. So I don't want you guys seeing my keys, so I've done that, but you should get a green message. Then, like before, you can just do your standard Heroku container release web app Rahi demo 8. And then we pray. Oh, that was fast. Okay. I guess we try it. Here's to hoping. So that's the browser? Yep. Heroku app. Rahi demo 8.herokuapp.com, I think. That'll take a second. There we go. Okay, we got the hello world response. That's a good sign. So now we grab that. We go to Postman, and instead of localhost 5000, we go to Heroku app, send it. That gave us a thing, and then we click it, check it, and it gave us an image back. Perfect. So, was a little bit topsy-turvy, but I hope you guys enjoyed the image demo that finally released. Again, super sorry about the wait, but if you're interested in using this in the hack challenge, definitely go for it. All right, yeah, if y'all have any further questions, let me know, let a TA know. Hope y'all have a great day. Bye.